Look, what's old is new again. We've got to start with the government shutdown.
We do. And lawmakers are still in search of a deal to open the government clearly. Until then, the shutdown just continues impacting federal workers, some programs, and the local economy.
Yeah, officially, third longest shutdown in history. The bronze medal, everybody. Congratulations. The only other times the government was shut down longer than this, Hillary, 1995, 21-day shutdown. And then we remember December 2018, right? 34 days.
I remember 1995.
I was 9. Unlike other shutdowns, though, the White House has taken aim at federal workers, either attempting to fire them or withhold their back pay for certain employees out there. Meanwhile, talks between congressional leaders have largely stalled. The back and forth continue in the media. This weekend, no exception.
All righty.
We have repeatedly and publicly and privately made clear to our colleagues on the other side of the aisle that we will sit down with them anytime, any place, with anyone, either at the Capitol or back at the Oval Office, to reopen the government, find a bipartisan path toward enacting a spending agreement that actually improves the quality of life of the American people.
I refuse to allow us to come back and engage in anything until the government's reopened, when the Democrats do the right thing for the people. They're playing politics, and we have to use every ounce of leverage we have to make sure they do the right thing.
For the latest on this drawn-out battle over getting the government funded is Judy Kurtz. Judy, good to see you again.
Good morning to both of you.
You know, we have each side thinking that they are in the proper position, that they are going to win over Americans. But the fact is, when you look at polling, not so much.
Yeah, not so much indeed. And it seems at this point, you know, we've seen this rerun before. Everyone's ready to change the channel at this point.
Yeah.
The Senate is poised to vote today for the 11th time on whether or not to end this government shutdown. I don't think the saying goes that the 11th time is the charm, though. I would not get my hopes up.
Haven't heard that one.
So we talked about how this shutdown has stood apart from others, and you look at the administration, the freezing of funding for projects that have already been approved in some Democratic cities. They've threatened to withhold the furlough pay, the back pay for workers, and then the moving around of money to pay troops, which was a really big sticking point in the beginning that Congress sort of said, well, now we no longer have to deal with that because the president took care of that. But listen to what Rand Paul had to say about potentially having to vote ultimately to pay the troops because they could miss another paycheck.
So I opposed both, but it's not really that I oppose shutting the government down. So I'm in favor of paying the troops. I'm in favor of paying all of the employees that are currently working. And if that procedure or that vote comes before us next week, which I think there's a chance that it will, I will support that.
So, Judy, gets to the whole, you know, the leaders are saying one thing, but the rank and file members are like, let's get this done.
Yeah, absolutely. And Senator Paul was the one Republican who voted along with Democrats to not reopen the government shutdown. He did that because he didn't want to increase the deficit. But there could be a vote in the Senate this week on paying the more than 1 million service members who are affected by this government shutdown. Republicans trying to spotlight the military families and their plight during the shutdown and really pin it on Democrats if they vote against that legislation that would pay them. Of course, President Trump also directed Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth to find available funds to pay service members. They found $8 billion worth of funds, but those are due to run out as well.
I found this really interesting. Reuters is reporting that the U.S. federal court system is getting ready to cut back some workers. They ran out of their funds, the judiciary did, to keep things rolling. And for the first time in 30 years, the judiciary could be forced to furlough some of its 30,000 employees. So they will be adding to this big group of people that potentially is going to feel a lot of pain. I mean, we're starting to read stories about people who are thinking about what to liquidate so they can pay their bills.
Yeah, and I think we have some numbers, too, of the folks who are going to be affected by those missed paychecks. The Department of Defense and the Homeland Security that's going to affect 658,000 workers come October 24th this week. The 28th, more federal agencies are going to be impacted, 686,000 workers. And the Department of Education, the State Department, come the 30th, another 37,000 workers. Another interesting component of this that we spoke a little bit about earlier is the meme wars going on. this is the first time, the last government shutdown was in 2018. We didn't have, ChatGPT, the AI fights going on. So the mudslinging has now taken to artificial intelligence. You see there, the NRSC released this AI video of Chuck Schumer saying that every day that the shutdown goes on, things get better for Democrats. And that was a real quote from Schumer, but he didn't do that kind of creepy grin saying it.
No, this was a quote on paper. He told Punchbowl News, and they reported it. And look, it made the rounds, certainly. You saw senators on the floor talking about, Chuck Schumer saying that every day gets better for us, but we know every day does not get better for all the federal workers out there, especially the folks here in our area. Pew released an analysis. Nearly half of government employees earn under $89,000 a year. That was going back to March of 2024. 8% earn less than $50,000. This has a real impact.
Oh, completely. And we've heard from, at that News Nation town hall last week, federal workers who are taking on side gigs, or Uber drivers, DoorDash delivery workers, just to make ends meet during this time when you're not getting a paycheck. You have rent to pay, you have grocery bills, you have child care, life goes on even when you're not getting paid.
And not to mention, it's not a trivial thing, but the Smithsonian's shut down, so the D.C. tourism impact is felt a lot as well.
Right, and as we've talked about, all the contractors, it's not just the furloughed federal employees or the people who have been fired previously, it's the cafeteria workers or the cleaning crews, so it really does reverberate past that.
Absolutely does.
All right, well, we'll see what happens with that vote later today, but it looks like we're headed to day 21. But who knows? They could shock us.
The reruns.
We'll
they
see.
keep
Thank you,
Keep going.
Judy.
Always glad to have you here back.
Thanks to both of you.
Thanks so much. We'll see you next hour.